All right, guys, this is part three of the reading from Life at Home in the 21st Century. Now, remember, we're talking about televisions and what role that plays in our societies and families today. So, we're going to pick up here on page 222 in the book. And in this paragraph, I'm just going to focus on these two lines. I thought that they were pretty important. This one says, "Are photographs of living room assemblages," and I click on this and it shows that assemblages mean collections of people or things. So the collections of in our living room repeatedly reveal spaces organized around televisions rather than spaces with other primary affordances, such as face-to-face conversation. So what this means is that our living room spaces are organized around TVs rather than being organized so it can be easy to have face-to-face conversations. Whenever you're trying to put the couches somewhere, you're always thinking, well, everybody's got to see the TV. So if we face the couches towards each other, yeah, we can talk to one another, but then nobody can see the TV. So we always end up facing the couches towards the television. So it's just saying that over the decades, our couches went from facing each other so we can talk to each other to facing TV so the TV can talk to us instead. Now, I mean, do you think that's dangerous? Do you think this is the way it should be? This might be a really good sentence to copy and paste into your My Notebook, just to bring up again later for your multimedia presentation. So let's scroll down here to this last sentence in this paragraph. It says, "The TV has ascended," meaning risen, "to the rank of essential major appliance." Essential means vital or important, all right? Alongside the refrigerator, clothes washer, and dryer, around which builders and architects imagine the designs of residential spaces. So it's saying that the TV is now just as important as the refrigerator, which keeps our food cold so we can eat and live, and as important as our clothes washer and dryer to keep us clothed. And it's saying the TV is just as important as that. And the builders and architects of homes are building homes so that the TV can be easily placed in the living room. In fact, you'll even notice sometimes there's a little recess, or the wall will go in about 6 inches, maybe above your fireplace. So the TV, the flat screen TV, can fit in there. So it's just kind of going to show how even the way we build our homes is changing to fit the TV. So I want you to copy one of these two sentences into your My Notebook. Right? So we should at this point be on our third cell here, our third row. We have the example one that we had from previous reading, and you should at least be at this third row here. So copy it in here. Tell me what line it's from. Excuse me. And then tell me what it means to you. And then maybe a question it makes you think of. So now let's look at this graph on page 223. It's called Los Angeles Households and TV Ownership. So it's a pretty interesting graph that shows us in the survey that they did, how many households had how many TVs. So in this survey, there was 32 families in Los Angeles. So if you notice here, on the bottom, it's number of televisions. How many had one television, two televisions, three, all the way up to seven. And this is how many numbers of households in the survey had that many televisions. So looking at this, it says two households had one television. So of the 32 of them, two of them only had one TV. But notice a huge jump. In fact, I can't even fit it all on one screen. The number of households that had two televisions was 12. 12 of them had two televisions in their home. That's almost half. So we can look at that and go, well, that means half the families in Los Angeles have about two televisions. All right. Coming over here, how many households had three televisions? Well, come up here. 8 households had three televisions. Over here, 7 households had 4 televisions. 3 households had 5 televisions, and one house had 6, and another house had 7. Those jerks. Don't you hate them? 7 TVs? My goodness. Why do you need that many TVs? I mean, come on. So I want you to count in your head, how many TVs do you have in your house? So now we're going to jump down to page 225. All right, here's a big giant quote here. Must mean that it's pretty important to this article. It says, some researchers associate TV viewing with reduced social interaction, meaning that the more time you spend watching TV, the less time you actually spend talking to other people or interacting with other people. Do you agree with that, or do you not agree with that? So let's go down to this section right here. I really want to focus on this paragraph. This section is called The Material Legacy of TV. What's the legacy that TV is going to leave behind? Before I let the lady read this first paragraph to us, let's look at this word proliferation. It's a tough word. Go ahead and say that to yourself. Proliferation. Again, proliferation. It's a hard one. Let's click on it and see what it means. A proliferation is the fast growing of something. So it's how fast something grows. Here's a definition in Spanish, if that will help. So now let's have this lady read this first paragraph to us as we listen.
The material legacy of TV. The proliferation of video media technology since the debut of network television in 1946 has had a profound influence on American lifestyles. Indeed, few Americans can imagine everyday life without access to TV. Television is so entrenched in popular culture that we are surprised when we meet people who do not have at least one set. In 1947, U.S. households owned 44,000 TVs, just one set per 3,275 people. During the early 2000s, people purchased about 31 million TVs annually in the U.S., or one new TV for every 9 Americans each year.
So check that out. In 1947, only one of every 3,275 people had a TV. Just so you know, at our school, there's only about 1,200 people. That means that at all 1,200 people, nobody could have a TV at our school back in 1947. But in the early 2000s, now 1 out of every 9 Americans have a TV. All right, that's crazy. That's a crazy growth. All right, so TVs have definitely been growing in American households. So with this many TVs being bought in 31 million a year, what happens to all the TVs that we're done with? Well, down here in the article, it talks about it. It says, eventually the life history of a TV, or at least the portion of the life history that overlaps with family use, comes to an end. At that point, the artifact, the TV, exits the systemic context and enters an archaeological context, meaning that we stop using it and it kind of becomes what's left behind. That's what archaeologists do. They look at the things that are left behind. This is a state in which interaction is primarily with the natural environment, such as the city dump. Right? The Environmental Protection Agency estimates that during the mid-2000s, Americans discarded an average of 1.5 billion pounds of TVs each year, in the range of 25 to 27 million sets annually, of which only 4 to 4.5 million were collected for domestic recycling. That is a lot of garbage. 1.5 billion pounds of TVs. All right. So the question here could be, what is this doing to our environment, having all these TVs thrown away? If you notice, only about 4 to 4.5 million are actually recycled, but the other 25 to 27 million sets, they're just sitting in dumps across the country. What is that going to do to our land? So this would be a really good sentence to copy and paste into your notebook, and maybe that could be a question you write down. Right? The question you could write down is, what is this going to do to our country? What is this going to do to our children? Right? They're the ones who are going to have to live with our trash after we die. So Again, make sure by now, because that's the end of the article, by now you should have all of these boxes filled out in my notebook here. So you have plenty to draw from for a class discussion and for your multimedia presentation. So now I want you to go onto Google Classroom and I want you to find the assignment called 5-Word Summary and go ahead and click on the link. All right, for this assignment in the 5-word summary, after you put in your name and your period number, I want you to write a 5-word summary for this paragraph from the reading. Okay? We went over this paragraph in the video, and I want you to write only a 5-word summary. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. Okay? By the way, it cannot be the material legacy of TV. All right. I want it to be a summary of what this paragraph is talking about. What is the main idea? If you can summarize it, shorten it down to just 5 words, write it here. And it needs to make a sentence. Don't just go TV, good, people. A 5-word summary. All right, so one sentence that's only 5 words long. Yes, exactly 5 words long. I don't want it to be 6 words. I don't want it to be 4 words. I want you to use your brains like a puzzle and figure out how you can answer this in just 5 words and then go ahead and submit it. Once you do that, you are done with the work for today and you may go on to the fast finisher board.